I'm
Good.
Zane with Zane Engineers Life. Today we have Mitchell Mullen, who is I think, finance student at University of Tennessee. So give me the 90-second version. Tell me about yourself and what it is you're doing and what you're trying to do.
Yes, sir. I grew up in East Texas. Around my stepdad was an engineer, mechanical from Texas A&M. Um, so I lived in Texas up until I was about 16. I moved to Franklin, Tennessee, and ended up getting in over at University of Tennessee. And and I've always been a good student in high school, but ultimately really found an interest in business and finance. So started college in Knoxville back in 2017. Kind of took some time off to travel, worked some jobs. I worked at some car dealerships, including Mercedes-Benz of Knoxville. Had some good work experience. And when I came back to the University of Tennessee, it would have been around 2020. I had to do some work to kind of earn my way back into the business school. Well, along the way, I joined a fraternity, met some really interesting people, and a lot of the people that really caught my attention were a lot of the people in science, kids that were going into pre-med studies and also engineering. And so as I got further in my education, I found a real interest in engineering. And so that's where I'm at today, kind of still doing well in finance, but really got interested in this field of engineering and actually saw a lot of overlap between the two, and ended up watching you on YouTube, looking up, looking this content up
Right.
and digging deep. And I came across your YouTube and said, you know what, I got to reach out to this guy on LinkedIn. So, and here we are today.
Finally, someone does hey, hit me up on LinkedIn and see what happens. And what happens, you actually get to talk to the man and then we figure it out, right? So
Yeah.
you hit me up on YouTube and I was like, hey, ping me on LinkedIn. And the question you sent me was, hey, Zane, hope you're doing well. I came across your YouTube, love your channel. I always believed in going to a good business school. But as I made friends in college, I found buddies, engineering work to be very interesting, mostly how it can be applied to real world technology and business. I'm pretty torn between finishing my finance degree or changing directions and switching engineering. It would take time and money, but I look at investments in the long term. I'd love to discuss with you the difference in finance and engineering. That's why I'm reaching out. Let me know if you'd like to talk about this. Thanks, Mitch.
Yes, sir. Sounds about
So I
right.
guess the big questions, okay, and the most important one, Mitch, is what do you want to do? What's your why? What's your outcome?
100%. I mean, uh, I do want to say one thing. I think there is a bigger debate here that I
Hmm?
would hope that some of the younger students can pick up on. I'm a bit of a non-traditional student. I think the bigger debate here that some of the younger audience can kind of the bigger debate here is kind of finance or engineering, and because they're both, you have to have analytical skills for both. So I can see how students would be interested in both fields. And then for me personally, what really caught my attention was learning about investing and financial markets. And
Sure.
that's really what inspired me to go into finance, was how can I be the owner of these businesses? For example, my stepdad worked for Enterprise Products in Houston as a mechanical engineer. And he would take me out on these projects to look at them. And, he understood the science behind it. He is a very technical engineer. I always looked at it from an owner's perspective, and who is financing this project,
Hmm.
and what kind of revenue, what kind of expenses, and what kind of profit can you turn on a project like this.
Sure.
And so what I got interested in was, how can I be an owner and own businesses? And that's what ultimately led me to business school. But what, I found that a lot of business students lack is technical knowledge.
Sure.
And not all of them, but I think some of them. And that was a little difficult for me because I've always been someone who excels in most subjects I study. And I thought, some of the people in the investing world don't quite understand what the businesses they're investing in are doing. And so that is, kind of something that I started to dig deeper into as I got into investing and actually purchasing shares of businesses. So that I kind of want to bridge this gap between finance and engineering, because in the investing world, you really do need to understand the technologies you're investing in. Otherwise, you can't make a good investment.
Sure.
And on the flip side, I think a lot of engineers, such as my stepdad and others, really need to understand the financial side of the business and get equity in the businesses they're working for. And that's kind of where I see this overlap between finance and engineering.
Preach, brother, preach, right? And there's so many different routes we could go from here. If you notice, if we would just look at data, and if you're a finance or engineer, you're doing data analysis. Let's look at the data. So the really successful people either are so good in their chosen field, either music or engineering or whatever it is, that they're the top 1 or 2%, and they excel at the technical or the specific of what they do. And they get paid lots of money. Maybe they're an NBA player, maybe they're an NFL player, maybe they're a top line developer in a certain field, right? Okay, so that's one route to make a lot of money. Okay, the other route is at some point you realize I'm not that good. And I'm probably not even in the top 25%, but I'm passable and I kind of understand what's going on. So what if I get out of the technical side of it and slide into sales/management and work my way over into the financial side of it, where I can see the impact I make, where I, for example, can become a sales engineer, help write the initial proposal, help get the technical side of it correct, and make twice as much money because I brought $1 million project into the company, right? So that's been some traditional routes of getting there. Now we have the third aspect of it, which many have missed for many years, mainly because it wasn't available kind of up until now, and that's the ownership side, okay? One of the fallacies we have in this world is, especially my generation, Gen X, which is we're going to take over the world, we're going to be better than you, and we're going to tell you about it, right? We're fucking awesome, and that's just what we are. And we're going to do all of it, okay? That was the problem in my dad's business. He tried to do everything. Right. Well, the big realization now is you don't need to know how to do anything. You just need to be able to put the pieces in the puzzle together. You can hire the expertise. You can bring in the expert. There's the famous Henry Ford story where somebody's like, you don't even know how to build a car. And he was like, yeah, but I can push this button and 10 motherfuckers will be up here in about 5 minutes that'll tell you everything you ever wanted to know about a car, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we take the spectrum there and go from the owner, finance, investor side who hires all the expertise to the actual expert, somewhere in the middle is where everyone resides, right? Right. And the reason the first question I asked you was, what was your outcome and what do you want to do? Is because individually, that is what should drive you guys. There is no universal answer to, do I get an MBA or a master's in engineering? There is no universal answer to, should I do engineering or finance? Right. For each of you, it's an individual. What gets me to my end goal the fastest? Okay. And for many people, buddies of mine that run businesses, they start out trying to do the technical and realize, wait, I suck. It's going to take me 30 years to learn this language or this science or whatever it is. Well, I'll just get enough money to hire people and then learn enough jargon to talk back and forth. Okay. Right. That's one great route, especially if you want to do it in less than a lifetime, right? How long does it take to be a really good surgeon or a really good engineer? A really long time. Yeah. Right? It's not the 10,000 hours. It's the 10,000 hours, 10,000 times. Right? Yeah. So you've got to ask yourself, what's most important to me? Now, let's say you want to be the greatest engineer there's ever been. Okay. But you also want to have a family and you want to have a future and you want to provide for your family and all those kind of things. Maybe you have to make a shit ton of money and then go back to school and learn how to do all that stuff. That's another route. Mm-hmm. I would claim Elon Musk, that's kind of his route. Right. Right. Make a whole lot of money and then get your hair fixed and then start all these cool companies and then be around these people so much and be able to put puzzle pieces together and learn words that you almost are credited with doing it when in reality it was probably all over engineers. Right. Right. So coming back, and let's just come back to your original question.
Yeah.
I'm in finance and I'm thinking about switching to engineering. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, if we come back to my advice, which was what gets you to your outcome the fastest, then we've got to ask a couple of questions. How far are you from graduating with a finance degree?
I'm 2 semesters away,
Okay.
so very
So you're
close.
2 semesters, and to start engineering, I now add 3, 4 years.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So you have to ask yourself, what are 4 years of my life worth?
Hmm.
And will I make up the difference if I get an engineering degree?
Right.
Okay. Or should I just get friends with enough engineers that I hire all my buddies who are experts and I figure out a way to pay for it because I'm on the finance side?
Right.
Right. I had this discussion with one of my engineers the other day. Hey, you and I on a phone call with a salesperson can make us $100,000 an hour, whereas we bill you at like 400. And no matter how many weeks you work, it's difficult to make up for that 1 hour. Like, it can be very impactful. So that also comes back to answer the person's specific question, Mitch, is what is it you want to do and what impact can you make? What talent do you have? What opportunities in front of you, right?
100%.
Now, if someone came to you and said, the thing you've always wanted to do, the money you want to make, and everything that you've ever wanted can be yours if you get an engineering degree, well, then you spend the 3 or 4 years and get your engineering degree, right?
Right.
Now, on the flip side, if you wanted to learn a lot about technical and engineering in a specific area, and you know that getting your financial degree gets you in the room with some people that allows you to either be part of or buy a company that's doing exactly what you want to do, that might be your route. Now, I'll come back for a minute because I get this question a lot. Hey, should I get an MBA? Okay. Here's my answer to should I get an MBA?
Yeah.
The first thing you do is you read this book. So this book, The 10-Day MBA, was written by a guy who got his MBA and was like, don't waste 2 years of your life. If this is all you need, just do that.
Interesting.
And it took me about 22 days to read the book. But if you read it and you have all the answers you need, you're done. If you read it and you go, I'm just getting started, I need to know more, go get your MBA. And then for many of you, for people that are watching this that are just starting school, there are countless universities now that have a dual engineering MBA program. Okay, if you were starting over, wouldn't you look into that right now, Mitch?
Yes, sir. And I think one thing I want to add in there is, now that I've had some years in the undergraduate education system, another great route that if I could go back to day one, I would consider is you can always get an undergraduate in engineering and get into a top business program for an MBA. Whereas if you get a business foundation, you can't really pivot into engineering. So that is something I think the younger students should consider for sure.
Sure. No, 100%. On the flip side, if you're just marginally okay technically, and you're going to struggle, and physics and forces and three-dimensional things don't come to you readily, if you're not a programmer by nature, if you don't take everything apart since age 3,
right,
might not be the route for you either. You don't want to do something that's going to be difficult and a struggle that takes forever unless it gets you to your end goal. So again, back to your outcome. What's your why? What's your outcome is your first step. The second one is what are my paths to get there, and which one's the fastest with the least risk.
Right.
Okay. Which one is, if you can find one that's guaranteed, well, that's your route, right?
Yeah.
If I could say, I'm going to punch you in the face every day for 3 years, but then you get exactly what you want, you have to decide, is getting punched in the face for only 3 years worth having everything I've ever wanted? But Zane, what if I'm not, how am I guaranteed to know I'm going to get that? Well, you're not, but you can stack things in your favor, right? So one of the things that, depending on the route, like if I was sitting down with you personally to decide what exactly should Mitch do, right? The questions I would ask you is, what do you want to do? Who's doing it now? And what do they have? So let's say you figure out in this industry, this type of owner making this amount of money doing everything I wanted to do has an engineering degree and an MBA. And that happens 8 out of 9 times. Well, that's a good thing you could pattern and follow and probably do the same thing, right? I think that's one thing people don't do enough of is figure out who's doing what you already want to do and see what path they took to get there and see if there's any patterns and commonalities.
100%.
And if every single one of them has an engineering degree, that might be the route you need to take.
What made you choose engineering as a path when you were first deciding on which career to embark on?
Sure. Great question. So I grew up, my dad was a computer science math double major. Ended up working for a trucking company. Ended up making a ton of money and doing really well and quitting one day because he didn't like going to work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in kindergarten wearing $100 pants going to the country club. And I remember the plate hitting the floor when he told my mom in the kitchen. And I got sent to my room while they discussed it, right? Well, he started selling real estate in 1980, the worst year in the history of real estate. And we starved to death, and we would water down cans of soup to eat and all of those kind of things. And he started building houses. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if he's building houses, now I'm building houses. So I was driving tractors and backhoes and doing all those kind of things. Then I started getting interested in designing the homes and putting them together and how they did. CAD was a new thing at the time. So I became our draftsman and our designer and started putting things together and taking CAD classes. And I just had a really, really good talent for two things. One was math and science, and the other was business and hustling. So like when I was in high school, I made construction money and then used it to finance a football book and hustled pool. And then paid my heavies, one of which eventually ended up playing left tackle for the Patriots in a Super Bowl. So he covered my back for years. But anyway, I always had some business thing going on, trying to make some money and hustle some money and take over the world. And I was really good at math and science. And, you finish in high school and people were asking me, hey, are you going to take over your dad's company? Well, one guy asked me one day, I was standing knee deep in mud, sweating my ass off, tying two rusty pieces of steel together so we could pour the foundation. And some guy said, hey, Zane, you're going to take over your dad's company one day. And I said, hell no, fuck this. I'm going to college.
Yeah.
Okay. So at the time, everybody went to college because that's what you had to do. So that became much stupider now that everyone goes to college. But in my day, not everyone went. So if you had the talent and you had the ability, then you should go. And the thing for me was, if I have the talent and the ability and the good Lord gave me those things, then maybe I should do some good in the world with them.
Yeah.
Well, lo and behold, I couldn't figure out which direction to take. And I said, all right, I guess I need to somehow get a scholarship to go to school because Dad don't have no money for me.
Right.
So I got to work studying for the ACT, rocked it, made high enough that I got a full ride to Mississippi State University.
Awesome.
And they just happen to have a really good engineering school. I just happen to like it because my dad was a fan and had attended there.
Mississippi?
I am from Mississippi. I grew up in Clinton and then went to school in Stark, Vegas, and went to Mississippi State. The other cool thing about State is it was an ag school similar to Auburn and Clemson and some of the others in the South, and mostly co-op. So probably 80% of the kids co-opted. Yeah. Most of the professors worked in industry. So it was unlike Georgia Tech here in Atlanta, where they teach you how to go to grad school. At State, they taught you how to do stuff in the world. Okay, super cool, right? Right.
Sure.
Well, I finished my degree and realized that I had no idea what I wanted to do in life. And one of my professors came to me and said, hey, you want to stay and go to grad school? I'll pay for all of it. And you could basically hang out and go to college football games and go to basketball and spend time with your girlfriend. I was like, yeah, I'm sold. I'm good. Yeah. So I did that. And then I finished and realized I have no idea what I want to do. I probably need my PhD. So I set up a thing where I could come to Atlanta to work for Lockheed. And I got into Georgia Tech's PhD program and got accepted. And then I realized that didn't work. And I got the hell out of that. I started then working for a company that was building their engineering department and did consulting, right? Now, if I back up for a moment, you asked me what got me doing what I'm doing now. I had a professor in school that was so bad that I decided one day I wanted to teach.
Yeah.
He was awful. Yeah, Dr. Agba, if you're out there, thank you because you sucked. And that's one of the reasons I eventually taught college. But anyway, I realized there was a path I needed to take. I needed to do a lot of different stuff. So consulting was the path. I had a few people I worked for that had their PE. So they're like, hey, you could actually go out and work on your own. So I knew that was my path. And that's basically what got me doing what I was doing. I had the entrepreneurial aspect. So the place I worked, I helped build the department and the business around it. I was very much involved in the business side, setting up the customers, figuring out the margins, helping do work that they used to do at 15% profit and turning 40 and 45% profit. So it's pretty popular and we did pretty well and all those kind of things. So it eventually led to my own business now where I do lots and lots of business. And I think that's the opportunity. And the reason I wanted to talk to you some is because I don't think people understand the opportunity that's in front of them if they're your age right now.
Right.
Okay. So when I got out of school, you had to do it on your own and you had to compete against people who were probably better than you.
Right.
Right. You're getting out of school. You don't have to do any of that.
Right.
Because there are so many people retiring, leaving, and giving up businesses right now that if you showed up to help them, they will literally hand it to you. And you have a massive amount of need in the technical sector. And none of those people know how to run a business.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Right.
Just to give you an example, we recently splintered off our marketing division into its own company.
Right.
We now do marketing for other engineering companies.
Right.
Because engineers don't know how to sell and market, but we can help them. And that way they keep engineering. And that's what we need them doing.
Yeah.
So I encourage you, if you're almost finished with your business degree, I would think about wrapping it up and finding a technical company. Maybe it's a startup or just getting going or really sound in their technical area and go take it over.
Yeah.
Show up, take over ownership, get equity, earn your way in. And while you're there, ask yourself, do I need more technical knowledge? And if you do, there are continuing education classes you can take. There are trainings you can take. You guys are almost like the Matrix movie where you can download how to fly a helicopter. Right?
Yeah.
My kids will watch a couple of YouTubes and suddenly they're chefs.
Right.
So you guys have a massive opportunity that we didn't have. You can get knowledge at your fingertips that's particular for what you need. Like you don't need to know how to program a robot to do something. You just need to know where to find the video to show you how to do it once, and then it makes sense for you. Okay. So for you, if you were just starting school, we would find you a place that had the dual engineering MBA program, and that's probably the route you should take.
Yeah.
You're almost done. Do you really want to give up 3 or 4 years of your life to go back to be an engineer to make less money than you could in finance and business?
Probably not.
Don't know. The other thing I think you've got to ask yourself, Mitch, is what are my talents and what should I do?
Yeah.
Okay? If you have a talent for making a lot of money and talking to engineers, the engineers need you badly. Because engineers don't know how to talk to anybody and they're scared to death.
Wow.
I have a staff member that'll work all weekend instead of making one phone call to a customer.
Wow.
They don't want to talk to nobody ever. And that's okay, because if we have someone like you that can do the sales side and the financial side and build out the business and do all the other things, that's like any good company has got a salesperson and a tech person, right?
Right.
You don't have to be both. You just need to have a common language that you can speak between the two of you. So you might have to teach each other parts of it, right?
Yeah.
We had a little bit of time the other day where my CFO was going through the P&L with one of our engineers. They need a little bit more information than they had, but not a lot.
Right.
Eventually they're like, oh, okay, I got it. Makes sense. I got to get gross margin and I got to work out my overhead number and then we're going to be good, I guess.
Right. So your CFO role, how does that work being that you're running it? I'm assuming an engineering consulting firm. What kind of qualifications are you looking for to bring in a good CFO, someone who can understand the nature of the engineering consulting that you're doing, but also, analyze financial statements, such as profit and loss, to make sure the business is headed in the right direction?
Okay, so many routes to go there. Let's start with small companies will never have one because they can't afford one, right?
Right.
So 0 to $1 million is easy. The 2 to 5 is the death zone because you can't quite afford the help you need. And the superstars aren't interested in joining you yet. If you can get to the 5 to 50 range, you can start to bring those people on. You can start to get your seed round, start to get your funding, start to bring in people. Before that is an opportunity for people like you to create C-level services for smaller businesses. We
Yeah.
provide that often through our business services. They'll have a call with a CEO who reviews their stuff, charges them a few $1,000 and gives them a plan of what to do for the next 90 days.
Right.
They have a CFO fractional come in and look around and give them advice until they can get to the point that they could hire one full-time in.
Yeah.
For us, I had a young kid come in and say, hey, I want to run my own business one day. And I told them, hey, the easiest way to do that is to teach you how to run this one.
Right.
And they just took off and started handling it. They started in accounting and bookkeeping, eventually realized they had no idea what they were doing and went back and got their MBA.
Right.
And now they're in the process of graduating from controller to potentially CFO this year. And that now they're becoming the angry CFO that every good company needs.
Right.
As I explained to them, if you're a good CFO, everyone hates you.
Right.
Because that's your job, right? To protect your company at all costs and to tell people what's actually going on and be clear with them. So that's another route that you could take. So for you, it's how do I create as many opportunities as possible?
Right.
So you could work at an incubator or a seed company, or you could be the technical liaison in a certain industry, like if you're interested in that. You could take a few classes in that area. It really only takes 15 minutes to be an expert, right? And if you want to test that theory, anything you do from now on, spend 15 minutes preparing and then compare yourself to everybody else in the room.
Yeah.
They say it takes 10,000 hours to become a master, but it only takes 100 to really be good.
Right.
Right?
Definitely. Or at least be able to tell if you're bad at it. So
the key, and I think that's a part of what you're trying to say in the beginning, is I want to know enough where they can't bullshit me.
yeah. Exactly.
I want to know enough to be useful. I want to know enough to understand what actually matters.
Right.
Right. The fundamental thing. There's the old story of Bill Gates asking the question about this random thing in Excel because he had known it enough to understand what the actual parameters were. And so that was one of his ways of figuring out if his guys knew what the hell they were talking about.
Right.
So yeah, you definitely need enough knowledge to be slightly dangerous.
Right.
But for you, you're pretty far down the path. What the hell are you doing working at a restaurant, by the way?
I'm
paying
finishing
your own way through school?
Yes, sir. I mean, I'm on a break. I have 2 more semesters left until my finance degree is finished. So,
Okay.
Looking for internships. And one thing I wanted to say, especially for the younger students that are just starting their college careers, getting into the finance, banking, investment banking world, there are actually a lot of big firms that really like to hire engineers on as analysts. So, for the younger students who are in engineering, who might be asking, well, maybe the opposite question of me, how could I jump into finance potentially or rise up to a C-level position? If you have good analytical skills, you're good at math, you're good at physics, but you still kind of like yourself have that drive to understand how businesses are structured, how to read a balance sheet, things like that. A lot of investment banks will bring on mechanical engineers, really any kind of engineer, computer scientists, math majors. So that can be very valuable. And I think a lot of engineers should consider applying to some of these boutique investment banks, wealth management firms, and even the larger investment banks like JP Morgan Chase and Goldman Sachs. Because they really do. You can even set yourself apart from a lot of these finance majors coming in as a mechanical engineer. Hey, I did a internship with Lockheed, and now I'm interested in kind of understanding the investment side of things. And a lot of these banks will take on engineers. So that's what I've told some younger students who have asked me, should I do engineering or finance? And I said, you're going to be bored in finance because you're too good at physics and math. So, finish mechanical or whatever you're doing, and then apply to, whatever investment bank you want, whether it's a boutique investment bank or a bigger commercial one. And you can learn a lot of the financial knowledge you need. And like you said, a lot of it's just out on YouTube. You can go start to understand the economics of
Sure.
how markets move. And so engineers make great investment bankers as well, which,
Well, we're good at pretty much anything. And 2 points to kind of reinforce that. So one of the reasons there aren't as many engineers of my age
mhm,
is at the time, Anderson Consulting, which is now Accenture, and a couple of similar firms made a huge push of growth.
Yeah.
And they realized that we can teach engineers to program, but we can't teach programmers to engineer. We can teach engineers to run business models. We can't teach business people how to engineer. And so they hired a shit ton of engineers and took them all out of the system, and they're not available to us anymore.
yeah,
Now, second point of that, my son, who I tried for many years to talk him out of engineering and definitely don't go to Mississippi State, and he's doing both.
Yeah.
I asked him why, and he said, "Well, Dad, you taught me that an engineer can do anything.
Yeah.
You could be a chef, you could run a business,
right,
you can be an engineer, right? Because once you learn the scientific method of how to figure things out and gather data and create a hypothesis and test it and make a loop, you can literally fix anything."
right,
So if you were just starting, if you were in high school and you had asked me the same question, I would have told you, let's get you in the dual program and let's definitely get you an engineering degree. You're almost done, right?
Yeah.
We don't have time for you to go back. We need you now.
Yeah.
Finish your damn degree. And if
So-
you can go ahead and get started working without it, that's the path you actually need to be on, Mitch. Okay. Let me go on a little rant here for a minute. Many people spend their life in if then. Well, I'll get started on Monday. Well, I'll go to the gym on Wednesday. Well, I'll get started next week. Well, as soon as I get X, I'll do Y. Oh, when I finish my degree, I'll look for a job. Like,
Right.
no, that's not how the world works.
Right.
You need to ask yourself, what is it you want to do, and can you do it right now?
Right.
And the example I give for many is when when I was teaching mechatronics. Hey, what do you want to do? I want to be a programmer.
Right.
Why the hell are you sitting in this lab? Like, there's 10,000 programmer jobs. Just go start programming. Well, don't I need a degree? Says who? Well, my grandmother. Well, how many programmers has your grandmother hired in the last 10 years?
Right.
0. Then why the hell are you listening to her?
Yeah.
Right? Go figure out who's doing what you want to do and see what they have.
Yeah.
If you want to run a technology company, what's interesting, Mitch, is if you actually dig into it, most of them are engineers.
Right. 100%. I mean, even the platforms, you talk about being able to access knowledge at your fingertips within seconds. If you look, and the reason why I understand this is because I do deep research on companies that I like to invest in. But when you start to do deep research, you start to learn about the founders of these businesses. One of those businesses, famously being Google, was founded by computer scientists slash engineers who met at Stanford. They started at state schools, though, both of them, Larry Page and his co-founder, Sergey Brin, I believe his name is. They went to state schools and studied computer science and mathematics, I believe, before meeting at a master's program at Stanford. So a lot of the software you're running is created by engineers.
Now, imagine if you'd been buddies with them and had the business knowledge that they probably didn't have when they got started.
Right.
That's where you need to be looking out right now.
Right.
You need to go to all the UT clubs,
Yes, sir.
techs, senior projects.
Yeah.
A lot of the schools now are doing business case style senior projects where they group students from different majors.
Yeah.
If you guys do that, you need to get on a really highly technical, super out there, crazy AI prosthetic super senior project that'll fail miserably, and you just listen and write up the business case.
Yeah.
You need to find whatever the closest incubator is to Knoxville, which I think there's one in Nashville. You need to go and just show up and sweep the floor and bring refreshments and take notes.
Yeah.
You need to figure out what industries you're interested in and go to the trade shows and find the poor bastard who's a technical person trying to start a company and partner with them.
Right.
There is no reason on earth for anyone under age 30 to do anything on their own.
Right.
Don't start your own business by yourself.
Right.
Don't go do it on your own. you would be a fool.
Right.
And at my age, it was the only way.
Right.
Because we were all cutthroat and hey, fuck you, I'm going to be better than you, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to do everything. I'm still that way, right?
Right.
Like I'm better than you at everything, no matter what, even if I'm not.
Yeah.
But for you guys, you work so well together, and you work so well collaboratively. You understand Discord and all kinds of tools to communicate and put things out there. You've probably all used Asana and Slack and all these other platforms to communicate and push projects through and do all those kind of things. You know how to do that. 3 of you can outwork 12 of us because you guys work better together. So now it's time to go find your technical co-founders and get started. To find the company that maybe just lost their CFO or their business person and come in. Do like the kid that sat here in my office and said, I want to run my own company and I'm going to make you a shit ton of money in yours. And I was like, that sounds cool. Let's do it.
Yeah. I want to add 2 things that come to mind when you say this. And one thing I want to say is for the engineering students out there who are maybe just starting their college career, or even maybe you're a sophomore or junior, take some economics courses, because when you start to understand economics, you understand how markets move, and that can affect technical businesses. And you see that with these bigger tech firms who are giving a lot of layoffs right now, like Meta, Tesla. And it's not because they're bad engineers on the projects. It's because the economics have changed.
Sure.
As a matter of fact, Fed setting an inflation rate affects market prices. The S&P has been down this January. And a big reason for that is because interest rates have been on the rise by the Feds, which meaning as an investor, I can put my money into a treasury bill that's going to give me a higher return, therefore mitigating my risk. I don't need to put as much into the markets, and that can create a sell-off, which in turn pushes prices down. That can affect housing as well. Interest rates affects housing directly. So and what the Feds are trying to do now is bring interest rates back down a little bit to encourage consumer spending. So hopefully the housing market will do well over the next year. We'll see what happens. But
all right, so that's our CNBC version, right?
Right.
Let's talk for a minute about a bigger opportunity that's in front of you.
Okay? Yeah.
So North America is one of the only places with millennials.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We got Southeast Asia, Argentina, Africa, and North America. Okay. We're going to silo. All of the stuff that went to China is already on the way back. We've got to build a manufacturing base to make all of these things we've been buying elsewhere in North America. The opportunity is massive. At the same time, the available capital, because all the boomers are retiring, is going away.
Right.
So capital is going to be more costly. Yeah. Opportunity is going to be much bigger, and effectiveness, efficiency has to go way up. So the real question and challenge I have for you guys is to quit worrying about all that shit you just talked about.
Right.
And let's find a way to 5x, 10x our money in creating things that we need.
Right.
We have to double the power in this country.
Yeah.
Anybody ever thought about how hard that is? You know how long it takes to design and put a power plant in place? Yeah. It's not quick. Right. And even if we build out all this industry, we need all of that power. If one of you guys could actually get into Congress and get rid of the stupid Jones Act so that we could use our waterways and move things around at 1/12 the cost, that would be super dope, because then Ohio becomes the mecca of all things industry.
Right.
And we will build plants like it's going out of style. Now, on the back end of that, what do we need in those plants? Because we will not have people putting things together.
Right.
We don't have the people. It's going to have to be machines and machinery and technical people to do all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I implore people your age, if you're 30 and under, it's time to make a difference in the world. It's time to get in here and help us do stuff. Find someone who's struggling, who's older and has the knowledge, and fill all the gaps they don't have.
Right.
So like I've got a fabricator customer I was talking to the other day. Oh my God, he's so good at what he does, and he's about to go out of business. Right. Because he doesn't understand how to manage the cash flow of his jobs.
Right.
Well, how much of your money did you get up front? Oh, I got 30%. Well, do you have to buy your materials first? Yes. Well, what's the cost of your materials? 50%. Do you have 20%? No, I don't have any money. How the hell are you going to fund the job? I wish somebody had told me this when I proposed it.
Right.
Exactly. We got to have guys like you out there helping these. So find the local fab shop and go talk to the guy.
Yeah.
Hey, how about I come in and make you a whole lot of money? What are you talking about?
And I want to bring up a second point here. One was, the first point, just to clarify, was engineers should take economics courses. The second point is, as more of an economist and financial minded person, one of the more classic ways to invest, if you look up someone like Warren Buffett, is value investing. And right now, from what you're telling me, there's a lot of opportunity in the economy right now. As an investor, as an economist, you hear a lot of people that you go to high school or college with that say, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be an entrepreneur. And you say, well, what does that mean? And most people think, I'm going to go build my own lemonade stand, open it, and start selling lemonades, or, whatever business you dream of. Well, actually, being an entrepreneur, you can instead be an investor, and you're just as entrepreneurial as an investor by buying shares of a business or buying equity in a private business. So oftentimes the best entrepreneurs are people who find undervalued businesses, who have a great level of assets, not too much debt, and they can snatch up a business that maybe the revenues are declining. They can snatch up the business at an undervalued market price and maybe change the economics of the business, hire maybe some sales teams, maybe hire new design engineers, things like that. And you can increase the value of a business significantly, and probably a lot faster than starting your own.
And more important than that, Mitch, and more noble than that, is there are massive amounts of businesses with absolutely no succession plan. And the thing that you can come in and do that we really need more than anything is to keep that business there.
Right.
Okay. There might be a fab shop that's got 25 guys working out in the middle of nowhere, South Carolina. And if they go under, that's 25 families that aren't eating.
Yeah.
And the thing is that their product is needed, but there's no one to carry on the tradition.
Right.
Those guys need to be welding. They don't know how to run the other part of the business. And frankly, the owner doesn't either.
Right.
Or they would be 10 times the size they are now because of the opportunity that's in front of them. And the bigger, even more noble thing that you could probably do is find 10 of those and roll them up together into a much larger, more sustainable, more survivable company that can then apply benefits and things to all of those people that it works for, and transfer all of that back to the community, tie into the local community colleges, and get those kids who don't need to go get a degree because they want to just put shit together. Give them a place to go and to do things because we need them. Okay.
Right.
And the cool part is, for the entrepreneurial business people here, you can do all that and be a hero and make a shit ton of money.
Yeah. 100%.
And bring everybody with you. And that's what I want to get across, and why I wanted you to bring even more people to this call. Yes, you guys, there's so few of you that actually know and see this.
Right.
And we got to bang the gong. We got to put it on the speakers. We got to get it on the billboards. It takes 27 times to get in somebody's brain, and we've told it 0 times.
Right.
So we got to get this message out there that there's opportunity. So for you right now, I question why you even need a business degree.
Right.
If you want to run a technical company, I've probably got 5 customers that have no fucking idea how to run their business.
Right.
And could take a presentation from someone like you that comes in and says, hey, I'm going to help double your business. I'm going to bring in the math and science of business and MBA to take this place over that. And I've got connections and people and all those kind of things. And all I want is a chance to one day be a part of an owner with you. Right. You don't have to give me anything until I produce.
Yeah.
No one's going to tell you no.
Yeah. Well, I will say a couple things. Number one, as I got closer to finishing with finance, I realized that my technical abilities were superior than most business students. So, you know,
Come on, that's not saying much. No, come on.
that is definitely not saying much, but
those who can do, what's the saying? Those who can't teach, and then everybody else goes into business.
yeah, I mean, something like that, something like that. But you know, you do get a lot of these business students who don't really, they're just there because they're there, you know. But when you take a true economist or someone who's a true accountant, then I can really see the value in a business degree. And this is one point I did want to bring up with you while we're on this call. If there are any business students watching, you are actually valuable too. And don't let the engineers tell you you're not, okay? Because one thing that really kind of, you know, hurt me for a long time being a finance major was this stigma that you just want to profit, you want to take it and go. And so a lot of the investment bankers and these kind of people get this reputation that it's pure greed. And I thought for a while, you know, I had to take a break in my education just to decide, go work, like you said, and decide what I wanted to do. And I couldn't see a way that finance was helping people. Like I couldn't feel like the same way that an engineer or doctor.
Well, I mean, watch the show The Prophet, right? Marcus Lemonis. He made a ton of money, and then what does mom tell him? You're evil. You've done nothing. You've made no impact in the world. And so what is he doing now? He tries to go into businesses and help them get over the hump. It's a noble thing that is needed. It's exactly what you're saying. The reason you guys have that stigma is because that's what's celebrated and has been done. Like, you don't have to go that route. You can help people and make lots of money.
Right.
What if we all made lots of money, right?
Yeah.
What if there was something there for everyone? And just an example in our own business, like we used to compete with engineers 25 years ago. Now, why would we ever do that? Now we have a vendor network where we have tons of work for other engineers.
Yeah.
And our marketing company does their own marketing, and our business services is going to do business services for them. Like, there's enough work for all of us.
Yeah.
Let's do it together. Let's group. And for you, like, it's time to go wander around the engineering building and find some really smart mofos that have a really good senior project going and need funding and a way to sell it.
Yeah.
And start talking.
So I want to add this though, but if you are in business or finance, you actually can make a significant impact in the fields that do help people. And so one way, as you've mentioned, is, you know, if you're kind of like me, someone who's in finance and business, but doesn't want this greedy stigma that a lot of bankers and people like that get, what you can do is, you know, a lot of these small tech startups, or even in, you know, whether you're building a housing company, building housing, or you're building natural gas pipelines, or you're building a software company, a lot of these engineers are so focused on the product design and all of the technical aspects that engineers are concerned with, that they don't have time to go raise money from investors. But, you know, they need the money to start. Like, you know, Tesla and Amazon and all these big companies needed this funding to start. And if you pay attention to some of the most successful engineers in the world, I guess you could use Elon Musk, although we could argue if he's a true engineer, you know, Jeff Bezos, Michael Bloomberg, any of those guys. What you start to understand is they understand engineering for sure, but they're also leveraging financial markets. And when you are an engineer who can leverage financial markets to raise money for your startup, that's when you become.
Well, let's expand that. When the Venn diagram of you and the people you know can do that.
For sure.
Okay, I want you to leave with that clearly, if nothing else from this call, is it's time to get a few more people in the room. It's time to get me grouped with some people, right? It's not what can Mitch do, it's what can Mitch help people do.
Right.
And how do you find the one that's far enough along that needs you at the right moment? Because they don't just need their story told to the investors, they need their story told to the customers.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter if someone has a water car if no one knows it exists.
Right.
Right.
And that's kind of like one person that inspires me, and I'm sure has inspired many people, is Steve Jobs. Love him or hate him. He was someone who didn't have a formal education, but what he was so great at was bringing the best people together and making projects happen fast. And he definitely had an eye for design, but you can watch people like Steve Wozniak come out and say he wasn't an engineer, and he also wasn't a finance, person either. But
well, he was a unicorn, right?
Yeah.
Now the question is, can you get enough of you together to build a group unicorn?
Yeah.
And what impact can you make? And where can you do it the most? And how do you do it the fastest? Like, we don't have 2 years or 2 semesters for you to finish your degree. Like, go on and get started tomorrow.
Yeah.
Who can you help tonight? There are countless college dropouts because that was the time.
Yeah.
Like, again, if you don't need the degree as a gate to get what you want to do, like if someone wants to be a professional engineer with a license, they have to have an engineering degree.
Right.
That is a gate you've got to step through. That's a door it's a box you have to check.
Yeah.
For you, might not be.
Right.
If you go find that 10 of the people doing exactly what you want all have that, then it might be something you need.
Right.
But that's a simple thing. Connect with them on LinkedIn and go, hey, should I finish my degree?
Right.
And be like, who are you? You'd be like, you do the same thing you did with me. You hit me up enough until eventually we're on a call, and then you get some answers for yourself.
Well, I went down to the business building, or excuse me, the engineering building, and I shook some hands, and I went down and introduced myself. And what I told each engineer I met is, I said, hey, look, I'm not an engineering student, but I'm down here doing what businessmen do best. I'm annoying the hell out of each of you until you give me the answer I want.
Sure.
But
well, I would take it a step further. So look on the course catalogs, and the department faculty pages, and figure out who the senior design professors are this semester.
Yeah.
Okay. And then go talk to them.
Yeah.
Tell them, I want to make a difference in the world, and there's going to be a senior project that you go, damn, that needs to be sold everywhere.
Yeah.
And I want you to call me, and it doesn't matter if you call me, because I'm going to be here every Monday at 9 asking you this same question until you connect me with someone.
Yeah.
And then you sit down with the guys and go, hey, do you guys like selling and raising money? No. Got you, bro.
Yeah.
I got you. Let's make this happen. Let's put a picture of it up. Let's get it for sale. I've got a bunch of senior projects that were done under me that the engineers didn't have somebody like you, and they could have been multimillionaires.
Yeah, certainly.
I mean, one of the greatest projects ever was there was a squirrel shooter that was based on AI and could recognize a squirrel from anything else, and then it adapted and made changes for what to do to keep it from eating all your bird seed. Dude, they could have sold that for $49.99 150 million times and then gotten on Shark Tank.
Right. 100%.
But they had no one that understood. They thought it was impossible. They didn't want to do the sales. They didn't want to make the calls. There was no way they'd be able to raise the money. Oh, they'll just go take a job because it's easier.
Yeah. And I know your time is limited here, so I want to make a couple quick points.
What you got? A couple more questions.
I do have a question for you, because I know you're running your business here. So one thing I just wanted to add before we move too far along was Steve Jobs. So what I noticed about someone like that, and Elon Musk, you could say, is similar in this regard, but these are people who bring the best talent together and understand kind of both sides of the business, from product design all the way to raising money from investors. So being a people person is a very valuable skill, I think, that gets overlooked. If you can bring a group of 10 or 20 people together and pitch a project and get everyone excited about it, you might be someone special that needs to, either start a company or take over a business. And then the second question I had for you, so for someone like me, and I hope there's other business students out there like me who weren't satisfied enough with the business curriculum and had to go out of their way to find the real answers. That's what I do. I go in the real world and get the real answers. Do you think earning a finance degree, this is something I've thought of before I graduate, do you think earning a finance degree then limits you and places you in two niche of a category or too one-sided technical kind of like considering that if I go into finance with a finance degree, I can't come out and design products. And one of the biggest things that I got interested in was product design as I got older in my career. Sure. And I said, you know, as much as I like investing and I can understand that world and how the economy moves and things like that, I love product design. And that's something a lot of economists and financial minds don't really think about. Accountants don't really think about that. But, you know, so my question to you is, you know, for some of these business students who maybe be interested in technology as well, do you think landing in a finance degree and coming out and saying, I have a finance degree, do you think that limits you and places you into a category where you can't fully explore your creative interest?
It's such a good question. And let's make the answer as simple as possible. For all of you out there that allow yourself to be limited because I just have a finance degree, or I used to work in this industry, or I used to do this thing, then you're weak and you failed.
Right.
Okay. There should be nothing that keeps you from doing what you want to do.
Right.
It actually should be an enhancement. One of the reasons I'm going to be an amazing designer is because I have a finance degree. Well, that's a whole different way of putting it, right?
Right.
Simple version, I'm coaching basketball. Mom yells at me after the game. My kid only got 2 minutes of playing time. I was like, what if we rephrased it? Your kid got 2 amazing minutes of playing time, scored a basket, and got better. How does that make him feel now? Okay. Right. If you're limited in life, it's your fault, not theirs. Okay. If you allow yourself to be pigeonholed, that's your fault, not theirs. Okay. Make it an enhancement. Okay. You mean to tell me that you don't have enough skill to download or even find a video to show you how to download Google SketchUp and design something? Of course you do. You can do that in seconds, right?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
You can watch 5 videos in 5 minutes on how to use ChatGPT and have it create all the images you've ever needed.
Right.
If you want to design something, design it.
Yeah.
Don't let anyone tell you you can't do it.
Okay? Yeah. That's
now,
something.
That is the one huge advantage my generation had, is if someone told us that we couldn't do it, that's exactly what was happening next. And we were going to show you up and tell you all about it. That's actually one of the ways that I motivate one of my sales people. I tell her she can't do it. There's no way she'll ever close the deal. And then she'll die trying to make sure it happens. Okay. If you guys had that killer instinct, right, with your ability to find information and work together, right, there would be no cancer. There would be no suffering in the world. There would be no homelessness. There would be no trash in the ocean. There would be no trash in space. It would all be solved. But you guys are scared and you keep asking these ridiculous questions of, well, will this limit me? Or is this going to hold me back? Or even worse, what's the best way of doing this? You know what the best way of doing this is? Go try something. And when you fail miserably, report back.
100%.
That's how you get started. Go do something. So for you, if you don't get off this call and try to connect with 5 or 6 technical people tonight, then I failed miserably in getting you fired up about going and changing the world. Okay. Right. You're in the perfect position.
I appreciate that answer. That is a great answer.
All right. So now you got to go make a difference. And then I judge you by who you teaches.
Yeah.
How you like that one? So you got to pass this on to the people coming behind you. How do you get 2 more people excited about this? They get 2 more people each excited about this, right? How do you get some of you guys together? Okay. I'll say, let's say, how long would it take you to get at least one opportunity of a business to buy or start with some other technical co-founders? How long you need?
How long do I need?
Mm-hmm.
Can you ask that question one more time?
To either find a business to buy or a couple of technical co-founders to start a business with.
It wouldn't take me long. I have connections. The hardest
Give me a date. Can I have it by next Friday?
Next Friday?
Mm-hmm.
A week from now? See, the hard part is finding a good business because you do have to.
We didn't ask for a good business. Notice.
I can find a business to buy, and
it could actually be a terrible business, but at least you started. Okay.
Yeah.
Because one of the ways to buy or start a business is to make 100 offers on businesses.
Right.
What business should I offer on? Any fucking business. I don't care. Get on BizBossale, get on Craigslist. Just start making offers, because the only way to get good at it is to do it.
Yeah.
And the only way to find opportunity is to create it.
Yeah. I'll answer that question quite honestly. And the answer is, one, I would definitely want to analyze their financial statements because that's just how I think. But the answer is, I bought equity in businesses this week as we speak. I purchased investments, shares of businesses.
Good.
So every week,
this needs to be something you run and control. Okay.
Right.
I'm not talking about buying some stocks. I'm talking about creating the stocks.
Right.
So how can you get two potential opportunities, and you're not in due diligence yet?
Yeah.
There's no LOI in place.
If I could drop, the whole education situation and focus purely on founding a tech startup, getting guys together and
well, how many hours of your week are you putting into your education right now?
Full time. That's 100% my
What's full time? What does that mean?
Well,
let's break it down. So let's do some data analysis. I have 168 hours.
Right.
How many are you putting a week into your education?
Well,
training, class, study, homework, projects.
Certainly.
The whole shebang.
It takes, so during a semester, you're going to be investing at least about 5 hours Monday through Friday of, being in class, things like that. Now, if you're like me, you're doing a lot of research.
Should be more. It's supposed to be 3x your course load. So if you're taking 15 hours, you need to put 45 hours a week into your classes.
Right.
No, you're not.
Well, when you're, it depends on, I guess, the kind of student you are. But for me,
let's put it another way. Okay. Who's the most important person in your life?
Mother.
Okay. So if by next Friday at noon, you don't have two opportunities, no matter how bad they are. Right. I was going to take a baseball bat to your mom's left knee. What would you do? Could you find the time to make that happen?
Oh, yeah. I could find the time.
And if I was going to give you $1 million cash, could you find the time?
I can create the time.
Okay, so what if we just did that, Mitch? Why does this have to be the if-then we were talking about a minute ago? Right. Oh, well, I have to finish school. Well, what if you found an opportunity that you never have to go to school again?
Take it. But I'm a big believer in education, but I would take it. I would.
You can still do your education with tons of money and great opportunity.
Right. You're right.
You're telling me if you're running a company and making millions and millions of dollars, you don't have time for some education?
You're right.
You can make them come to you.
You're right.
You can hire a professor to sit with you while you're having spare time and teach you things.
It's a great point.
Don't play if then, and I got to finish my degree first and all that kind of shit. Go find some opportunities, dude.
Yes, sir.
How do you know that you're not doing the wrong thing right now, going to class every day?
That's a great perspective to look at it from.
Yeah, what if there's something more important you need to be doing?
It does feel like sometimes I'm just killing time, especially when a lot of the professors, I have respect for many of them, but some of them, are there for a paycheck. Let's just say that to be polite. So, in other words, I don't think they're in the real.
That's okay, right? Because they're just cogs in the machine, and they're just tools to help you get where you're trying to get.
Yeah.
Okay? And you can get something out of everyone. You might learn that they're an idiot, but at least you learned something, right? So do get the most that you can out of all of it. But I query you now, if you're special and you're better than everyone and you've got skill set and you see things other people don't see, you don't have to go down the path of the other sheep. Be a wolf. Go be a killer. Go find an opportunity and do it this week. And what I was going to say is, either you have two opportunities that you email to me, whatever they are, by noon next Friday, or you send me a video of you doing 150 push-ups.
Yeah. I'll take you up on that offer.
Okay. now recorded. So the corollary post to this YouTube might be a video of you doing 100 push-ups.
You're right.
And that's okay, right?
Most likely would be.
Because you're either going to get smarter or you're going to get stronger. That's what my sensei used to tell me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But I will say,
final question, what you got?
I'll just leave on this note. Trying and failing is, like you said, the best way to learn. And I've tried and failed many times, but it's definitely made me a smarter investor.
Now it's time for you to find the people to do it with.
Right.
Okay. Because it doesn't matter what you know, it's who you know.
Right.
We're in a world that's so connected with so many options that there aren't any.
Right.
And you have to create them. So now it's time to go find people. You're at UT Knox, so you should be able to find a ton. You've got Nashville right up the street, Atlanta's right down the road. Trade shows roll through all three of those towns. There are tons of people to talk to. Right. LinkedIn, you can connect to anyone in the world. Facebook, you can connect with anyone in the world. Get to work. Who's on Instagram doing what you want to do, and do they know you exist? Well, that's going to happen this week for at least 2 or 3 people, or you're going to be doing 100 push-ups.
Yes, sir. You're right.
All right, Mitch, go do something important.
Zane, thank you. Thank you for your time.